Hello, hello. Welcome to another hobby session. I assume that I will get some stuff done today, but we'll see. Not every day is as productive as I hope. So, currently on my desk, I have the Voidborn Scum that were my entry for today. I'm going to be practicing doing some more skin. As you can see, my desk is absolutely covered in various bits from all of the late night kit bashing I was working on last night. I haven't shown off those models yet. If I get to them, you'll get to see them. Otherwise, you'll probably see them the day that they are entries for the Inqtober challenge. In a related matter, I actually have a list of ideas for the challenge that I can kind of put up here. It's one of the cool things about OBS. So I can grab a window and boom. All right, so I can like throw this up here and we can say like, oh, look. So what did I work on so far? I did the Voidborn Scum for today. There is a squat prospector model that I printed and did a little kit bashing on that I just primed. And I last night did the Death Cult Adherent and Cyborg Arch Militant, which I am like super happy with how they turned out. And the interesting. Sorry, I'm trying to adjust which item is on top, and it's odd. Move to top. There we go. Yay! All right, now I need to move this up. Nope, I moved something else altogether. All right, so as you can see here, I did a blooded Flenser for my Cyborg Arch Militant, and so I took a little bit of the pieces from the blooded set. I actually think it's probably just the torso and the head, and then I put in new legs, new arms, and new blades. So really going hard at kind of making it my own. And then there is the Redemptionist with Boning Sword, which I built last night. It's actually Boning Sword and the Chain Cleaver, because I thought, Death Cult, I always associate Death Cults with having that kind of, that dual close combat weapon or one two-handed close combat weapon. And doing a Redemptionist with an Eviscerator, while would have been very fun to convert, just felt kind of like cliche. Like, yeah, okay, that's fine. But a guy with one axe and one sword, that's a little different, a little interesting. So that's the direction I went with it. So the next one that I need to convert is an Archaeotech Smuggler, which is that's an interesting one. So I have just endless amounts of random stuff on sprue around here, and Archaeotech Smuggler definitely makes me think of House Van Sar. So before we get into any painting or whatever, I'm gonna start with a little kit bash action just to get my excitement going. Usually I don't recommend building these Van Sar kits without instructions. It's probably a bad idea for me to do it now, but we all have our own way of working, right? So let's see. Actually, you know what? Yeah, I'll just go with that. So I am going to keep most of the body stock. With my Inquisitor stuff, I often try to mix kits in ways that I wouldn't necessarily think of offhand. So I'm actually kind of like, part of me is like, well, maybe go in a different direction with it, because I do have on hand this set of legs. Also, I apologize for my voice. I am still very very like very little bit sick, still getting over it. But I've got a bunch of legs nearby here. Let's see. So we got a chest. Oops. We got a chest, and these are legs that work for it. But it would be a bit interesting to go with different legs, ones that perhaps give us a kind of a different look. So like I've got some of the Gene Stealer cult legs, which would be interesting. That would be kind of like a, you know, a little bit more disguised kind of look. The only thing is that I would want to kind of redo this connection point right here, because it is, you know, super. It's just not ideal for. Yeah, it gives you that kind of hunched look that that you know only get from. It gives you that hunched look that you get from the Gene Stealer cults, but it doesn't quite. I don't know. It just doesn't quite work. I'm sorry. I am checking my stream out, and it's a little confusing. It seems like. Oh no! There we go. All right. For some reason, my stream on my end was showing it as still being the other version. So I wanted to check. All right. So I just need to move some things around so I can see the chat window. OBS has a chat window that it shows me, but it just is not very good. So, all right. I am still kind of getting used to this whole streaming thing. It's a learning process, but I'm getting better at the mechanics of it, and yeah, that's what I try to do. Is just try to get a little bit better at everything I work on gradually. Oh, here we go. So here's some other legs that might work with this. No, he's a little too high tech for those, I think. So I like this as, you know, he's a smuggler. It's gonna be kind of doing a lot of delving. Oh yeah, I'm doing that thing where I cut towards myself. So I try to reposition it so that it doesn't cut towards me, because it's like it doesn't, you know, you can do it right and carefully 100 times, and on that 101st time you can, you know, sever a tendon, and then you're not only out of commission for painting or converting for a while, you might never get a full range of motion back. So I really I'm trying to be as responsible as possible with my knife usage. All right. So we're gonna saw. I got this little bone saw I got from I want to say Gale Force 9. That is really clutch for these kind of cuts, because I want it to be a straight cut. I don't want to deal with that kind of that razor blade in the plastic. It can just kind of arc and do whatever it wants, and that's a little bit scary. So you know, when you're cutting a piece, it's always good to have as much control as possible, and the bone saw really helps with that. So that's one of my my little tricks for getting the most out of everything possible. Oh, Interesting. Okay. So I can have the top part of this kind of line up with this panel right here. And so it won't look kind of as awkward as those, that piece being missing. I do need to trim this a little bit over here. Part of this is about kind of testing and dry fitting and just playing with it until you find a combination that you like. But it's a lot of experimentation. You're never gonna know for sure that you're on the right track until you've kind of found the combo that's doing it for you. So this is, we'll say this is kind of like I don't know. It's always confusing for me, like where to start with when you're creating a new character for, say, Inquisitor or whatever. Do you start with the concept of the character? Like, do you create the character? Do you create the character design? Do you start with the kit bash? It's all kind of all over the place. So for an Archaeotech smuggler, I'm actually considering maybe making this character a rogue trader. Okay. How's that? So that looks good on that end, but it does leave a pretty big gap here. So I think that I need to go with this flush here, and then I can do some kind of gap filling with putty later. And then, of course, I'm going to need to sculpt a belt right here that kind of pulls the whole thing together. But this is, it's a that like kind of drudging, that work clothes, boots kind of look with someone who is clearly, has a little bit higher access to higher tech. But maybe I'll do like a shawl or something over the shoulders so that he looks kind of like he's like he's trying to hide his identity or something like that. So smuggler definitely makes me think like what kind of gear. Archaeotech smuggler. Well, I do have, and I have so many of these trays. So, of course, I have a zillion of these phosphor blast pistols because I came across a listing where someone was selling 10 of them, and they marked it down so many times that it was like $250 to buy, I think, like a 10 pack. So I bought like 30 of them because it was like, oh, why not? They're good pistols. They look good. I do a lot of kind of casual eBay browsing of bits sales. Most of the bits stuff on eBay, it's cheaper to just buy kits and kind of do it yourself, but not everything. All right. I know this is probably noisy, so I'm going to be quick. All right. That's what I was looking for. I'm thinking he's got a nice archaic looking pistol, and that robe I think will integrate nicely with the shawl idea that I had. Like he's got, armor, and then he's got cloth over the armor. So what about weapon hand? A close combat weapon hand, or go in a different direction and don't do a close combat weapon in the other hand. Do some kind of tool or measuring implement, or maybe even like some kind of case or something that he's moving. I don't know. This is my conversion process. It's just pulling out big trays full of bits and just mulling them over and kind of I even I even have these like, bins of bits. Oops. I even have these bins of bits that I keep on hand, even though I know that it's more reliable to like sort and find them when they're all broken down into these trays. I actually really like the bins because when I kind of go grab bag dumpster diving in them, I find all kinds of stuff that I wouldn't necessarily be looking for, but which in the moment inspires me. So it's kind of a, you know, how far do I want to go with that? Do I want to like primarily be yeah, see, part of me is like give him a case like this and then a different pistol arm. Yeah, I'm kind of that is kind of what I'm leaning towards. I don't know. It's tough. Thank you, Tech Smuggler. Could really go either way with it. There's also the fact that that arm is a very different arm. So that's kind of a different look, a little more armored look. And then the question is, do I have a right arm that is that aesthetic that's available? That isn't like holding a gun. Seems like no, I do have a spare of one that has the gun, but like that's not exactly what I'm looking for. I don't know. It's hard to decide in the moment. Often I will kind of start working and then just see where the project leads, and if it winds up working out, then bully, and if not, I can kind of always scrap things and move backwards. Here we go. All right, so I did find a right arm that's in the same style. So I could do like the case in this arm, and maybe of course I'll file off the medical symbol. And I am again doing that thing that I say I won't do. Although to be fair, it's a little different when you're scraping. One of the things that you should definitely make sure you do when you're working with razor blades is use a very, very sharp blade, as sharp as possible. I change blades out pretty much every day that I'm working on a project. And that is because you have a lot more control when the blade cuts without effort. So, you know, this is not exactly original advice. You know, my shop teacher taught me this in middle school. But if you, oh yeah, and also I abuse the hell out of my desktop. So don't be like me. Treat your desk nicely. But if you are like me, you know, you do wind up with a desk that looks like wargaming terrain. So there is that. I've gotten that comment on more than one occasion. All right. So yeah, so I'm feeling this. The case is a good bit for a smuggler. Oh. Almost forgot. There is a offending icon on the tabard right here. Thankfully, it's a relatively easy one to remove. Some of the Gene Stealer cult icons, if you're trying to use the bodies for other stuff, can be a real struggle to get off. But here, as you can see, it pops out without much issue. Oops. And to reglue that, it was a little soft, and then, all right. And as you can see, my file is right here because I do a lot of filing when I'm in kit bash mode. Comes with the territory. All right. Just getting in there. So I'm thinking that this might be, a rogue trader. I was just writing about a rogue trader, and I kind of like to riff on like the same area with these projects. So the same way that I kind of did the Cold Trader, and then I did the Voidborn Scum a few days later. I am thinking that maybe this Rogue Trader is the one who sort of Teague, advice for starting a Dominion campaign. So Dominion is the biggest issue that I run into with Dominion is that it can wind up a little lopsided. So if you are playing it by the book, and obviously I can't be sure what your approach is, but if you're playing it by the book, my biggest advice would be to if a player starts to get ahead, try to rein them in playing too many games, because you earn the income for the Dominion campaign after every game. So if you stack up a bunch of good territories and then you just go on a string of playing games constantly, you can wind up 3,000 4,000 credits. So I mean, it's one of those things where you'll have to kind of feel it out and see how your campaign evolves as you're playing. But the biggest thing is if you can get a set gaming night that people can know that there's going to be gaming at a set location, that is a great way to ensure that the campaign is successful. Because one of the biggest problems people run into with Necromunda campaigns is that you get certain people are interested, and then they don't actually have the time to commit to playing as frequently as the rest of the group. Now there's really great sort of tools for keeping those things working. So for example, if you are if you have access to the White Dwarf archives, there is a great article about perpetual campaigns, and I can look up what issue that was in, that has great little stuff that you can spend, that if there's a big deficit between the two gangs playing, you can either hire prospects and juves and stuff to fill them in, or you can pick tactics cards for 200 credits, or you can pick dramatis personae or bounty hunters and stuff like that to kind of fill in that gap. So even if people start to get behind, the game it works pretty well to kind of use those tools to make sure that your players are still able to have fun and compete against each other, even if there's a big gulf in their credits. But it really is, the Dominion campaign is a lot of fun, and it's relatively straightforward. It's nowhere near as crazy as the Law and Misrule campaign, which the potential for credit gains in that one are like full on ridiculous. And it's fun, and it's thematic because you're like criminal, you're engaging in all these different enterprises and stuff. Um, Hi, Kalos. Um, you know, uh, when it comes to the Dominion campaign, it runs itself pretty well if you just play it out of the book. It's not as tricky as kind of the Law and Misrule campaign gets like truly bonkers pretty fast. So definitely recommend the Dominion campaign first. Even the Uprising campaign from Dark Uprising is a good starting campaign if you have players who are okay with like the dark themes of the campaign, but that kind of varies by group. All right, so I'm kind of torn here. This back piece has really good details. And I'm kind of like, do I want to put a backpack on that? No, not really. So I'm just I'm like, do I just skip the backpack? I usually give models a backpack because I feel like, with all these characters kind of moving around and not having that like secure space, that most of their important belongings are kept like on their person. But I guess if this guy's a rogue trader, he probably has someone who does that kind of thing for him. So I will need to grab my bit bin again because I grabbed a left-handed pistol before. Now I need to find a right-handed pistol. Although I do really like these rifles, but shaving that other hand off would be a nightmare. I definitely sometimes make decisions based off of just how practical it would be to do that conversion. The scenarios for Dark Uprising are fantastic. The campaign is really good too, in that it's a little lower key. You're kind of cut off from that like ability to kind of bring in the craziest weapons after a while. So I definitely like the Dark Uprising campaign, but I do understand why some people are like, this campaign is not what I envisioned for playing Necromunda, because like they see Necromunda as like you start a gang, you build up, and you're like out, trying to be the best and trying to climb the ladder. And Dark Uprising is really more like, we are all trying to survive, and not all of us are going to make it kind of theme. I really want to run an Uprising campaign in a few weeks, like a short one, like campaign over a 2-day period. But I have to find a game store that's got a free slot and gotta recruit and all that stuff. And I've just been so busy. It's hard being a parent and also gamer. It's a lot of work to kind of juggle to get your games in. All right, so not quite. Where's my file? Filing is a nice way to kind of get your parts to fit a little better. You have a little more control than when the blade cuts, it kind of goes where it goes, and there's a chance that you'll cut in the wrong spot and things will not be what you want, and you can't undo it. Well, you can with putty, but that's its own frustrating process. All right. And yeah, as I noted in my post about it in various places, my kids get out of school 2 hours early or 3 hours early today. So it's just like, oh, that's right when I was planning to stream. Okay. So I just have to kind of adjust. Uh, so one of the things I really want to work on over the next couple of weeks is coming up with some stuff for an Etsy store, because I think that there's a lot of like little accessories for Necromunda and maybe even for other games that I could be producing that would help people to play that there's kind of a gap for. So like for example, the vehicle dice for Necromunda sold out almost immediately. I'm like, I don't want to use GW's design. I would just use a die with probably with text on it. But it would sure be nice to have the option to buy vehicle dice that weren't kind of a collector's item the way GW's dice sets tend to be. And stuff like tokens and all of that. I know there's a lot of people who do tokens already, but I think I could do some fun ones. All right. Okay. Of course, I mistakenly glued the hand before trimming back that arm joint. So here we go. All right. That is... Just hit that with the... Okay. Boom. Archaeotech Smuggler is coming along. Who knows what this guy has in his case? Could be anything. But we probably don't want to get on his bad side. Oh, and yeah. So I've got this thing about holsters. I like it when the holster is the right size for the gun, but it's so hard because all the guns in this game are stupid. They're so big. But thankfully, the Cerberus Hounds, which is where this gun came from, actually have empty holsters for their guns. I wish GW would do that for every kit, because when you're like me and you want everything to kind of look right, you find yourself trimming the like handle off of pistols so that the holster is empty all the time. It's something that I do a lot. And so, it's like, hey, I wish you guys would just do more empty holsters. And then, boom, the holster can go right there. All right. And you can really get a sense for how ridiculous the guns in Warhammer 40k are when you see the holster that is the entire length of the man's leg. Like, how long is that gun? Is that gun like? I mean, I'm like, I can't get it in. Like, how long is that pistol? But Warhammer stuff is it's stylized. It doesn't have to be realistic. So, all right, decent start here. Definitely gonna have to do some sculpting in the midsection area to kind of join and add a little belt. Keeps the whole thing together. But overall, the model is in a good way, I would say. I'm gonna run and grab some pack of bases. And of course, I can never tell if I'm holding a 28 millimeter base or a 25 millimeter base, because why the hell would you have both? But as you can see, GW has 28 millimeter bases now because they hate me and they want me to stress out. All right. Alternately, it's, just because some designer was like, yeah, but I don't want to have my feet constrained to 25 millimeters. And they're like, well, why don't you put them on 32s? And I'm like, yeah, but the 32 has too much space. Honestly, I wish there was less base related stuff in this game. I really liked AOS. I say in this game, I mean in the Warhammer hobby. It's not really a big issue in Necromunda since there's no defined base sizes. I really liked when Age of Sigmar came out and it was just like, yeah, use whatever bases you measure from the model. That was always kind of a cool idea. I understand why it's not the way they do it anymore, because people are stuck in their ways and everyone complained about it. But it is what it is. So yeah, I'm kind of torn. I could go with like a Van Sar head, but I feel like go in a different direction. Oh, maybe I've got, the blooded heads are not what I'm looking for. Asher. Orlok has some nice heads for just like general people, but they don't scream rogue trader to me. Let's see. Delac heads are always fun. It's like, what are these freaks? What are you? But it is like it's cool because they have the mods and everything, but I feel like I don't really play other games very often. I'm very, very interested in the Fallout game, and I am really interested in the Star Wars Legion game, and a few others. But it's hard to kind of it's hard to fit all of that in, like both budget wise and kind of time wise. Let's see. That shrouded head could do pretty well. Let's pop it in there. See how it looks. Maybe it's not a he. Maybe it's a she. She's hiding her identity behind like a shroud. Oh, I do kind of like that. I could even put, still do like something draped over her shoulders. And of course the head fell off and bounced. So now I'm not 100% sure where it went. Hilarious. But yeah, I play Necromunda and Kill Team as like my only really active games, war games wise. And then I do some just board game stuff, Arkham Horror and a few things like that. But I don't quite have as much time for playing other games as I'd like. It's hard. Time is the most scarce resource I have, which is, you would think that like, being a stay-at-home parent, that I would have a lot of free time to play games, but it turns out that my free time and other people's free time doesn't really sync up, because like when other people are free and it's like 5-6 o'clock at night, that's when my wife, who's been working all day, is home and stressed out and wants to eat dinner, and my daughter and son are like needing my attention and help with homework and all of that, and it's like, right, so like I have free time, but it's very hard to use that free time for gaming. So that is kind of why, like you, Kalos, I focus a lot on the painting and the building and stuff. One thing I really want to try to get into is, and I've done it a little bit with my core gaming group when the pandemic first hit. For like the first 2 years or so after the pandemic, we switched to being a virtual gaming group, and we were doing role playing, and I would love to do more of that. I really would like to do some actual play kind of stuff, like uh, telling stories through that medium. Because really, my hobby is more the storytelling itself than like any particular um, system or universe even. But I do think that the Warhammer universe is the reason the Warhammer universe is so fun, and I've talked about this in various forums a whole bunch. Um, the reason I think that Warhammer appeals so much is that it's like uh, it's so malleable to whatever you want to do with the story. Like it can be silly and over the top. It can be horrifying. It can be a mystery. It can be a comedy. It can be an action movie. Warhammer is this kind of I like to call it like a katamari of human culture. It just absorbs everything it can and keeps rolling. All right, so there we have it. After a bit of searching and testing and weighing, we have ourselves a Archaeotech smuggler. We don't know what's in the bin. Could be something good. Could be something bad. Could be a bit of both. And now, of course, I need to do a little bit for his base, or her base. Yeah, her base. All right. Kingdom Death is the coolest board game that I will never be able to get into, because it's like one of those it's one of those things that like I really struggle to get into a board game without being a completionist. And actually, I'm kind of gonna do a video about this topic in a week or so, because, or maybe even sooner. I might do that for the video that I'm gonna put up Friday. I'm debating it. I really loved Blackstone Fortress, and then I found the release model for the expansions to be very frustrating, because they were very expensive and they didn't offer that much actual gaming content. And then Cursed City, I was really excited for because the models were absolutely phenomenal, and I've played a lot of Cursed City. I think I've probably played it as much as I've played. No, okay, I've played it with my core gaming group that I play with a lot, as much as I've played Necromunda this year. I've played Necromunda with two different campaigns, so I've played a lot more Necromunda. But uh, the thing that kind of gets me is that they've taken that approach that they did with uh, the uh, Blackstone Fortress, and they have made it even worse, where it's like, okay, so we're putting out Night War, and we're not even going to include models in the box. And it's basically just a little expansion that they could have, I feel like they could have put those rules in White Dwarf, and that they did a bunch of those kinds of expansions for Blackstone Fortress. I even have the like Blackstone Fortress compendium from White Dwarf, the like Blackstone Fortress Annual or whatever they called it. All right, and so we got a base on this guy. Yeah, the issue I run into is not about like replayability as so much as like I really struggle to buy into a game where I can't get every bit of it. And that is really a problem with my own like my own little like rodent brain that like wants to own every single piece. But it is a problem. But yeah, I may pick up the Kingdom Death box at some point because it's just a cool, really cool aesthetic. I really hate their pinup models overall, but other than that, I really like their monsters a lot. Um, so you know, okay. So we did an Archaeotech Smuggler. Now, do I want to paint or do I want to work on my demon host? I've been kind of going back and forth about the demon host because it's like, what direction do I want to go in for a petty demon host, whatever that is? I could go like something for my renegades and heretics, you know, make another kind of witch to go with the two I have from Blackstone Fortress. Maybe I have three. I don't remember. And that's one route I could go in. And then the other way I could go is like, you know, someone who's been contained by an inquisitor, Cherubiel or whatever, you know, the character from the Eisenhorn series kind of is the like the default model that a lot of people kind of go with. But I don't know. It's kind of I could go either way with it, and I've been debating it, and now I've done everything up to it, and it's like, well, it's not for another 5 days. I could just skip it and work on something else, but if I do that, I know that I'm going to put it off until the day of, and I'm still going to be going like, oh no. So the question is, are these yeah, so there's not really any model for the yeah, I got the blooded spruce right here because I was working on a couple of models for them last night. And it's like, are they is it like is it like a barely clothed floating kind of body? Is that the direction I want to go in, or do I want to go with someone who's possessed but able to kind of still move around? It's there's a lot of kind of different routes you can go with a demonic possession, but a demon host specifically kind of makes me think of the inquisitorial use of such creatures. All right. It has been a long morning, so I'm just gonna medicate. I have a prescription. I do have a prescription. I have a cough button, but you got to remember to use the cough button in order to use the cough button. So yeah, we did a conversion. All right, I'm going to start doing some other stuff. So we've got these Voidborn scum here. I decided to call them Ed and Eddie. No, Ed and Ed. And then their brother Eddie died in a airlock incident. Oh, I know. My little glue thing has like a... Here we go. I always run into this problem where I'll leave a thing out and it gets that like clog at the top. But this little like glue poker is turning out to be very useful. Okay. So I'm trying to kind of up my, I think I actually will get a better. Interesting. It didn't help. I would have thought that reducing the amount of light would have helped with the contrast issue. Because this model is so bright that there's an excessive amount of highlight. I wonder if that's a setting that I can adjust. Transform. Filters. Nope. Scaling. Does not look like I have a good option. All right. Oh yeah. I forgot to change my paint water. That's slightly ironic, right? Okay. So one of the things I'm trying to kind of work on is after I do a zenithal priming, coming back in and doing an even fuller kind of value sketch where you're getting the kind of higher up highlights with an even purer white. Because the way I do my zenithal highlights, I spray the gray and then the white, and I do them at the same time. The idea being that you get a little bit of a blend, so it's not pure white at the top. And then you can come in now, and I'm actually going to go run and get more water. Because when you're working with white, it's important that your water be clear. And that water wasn't just not clear. It had ink in it. And let's be real. You don't want ink in your water. It's going to tint everything. All right. So, as I was saying, I am regretting not hooking up the DSLR for this stream, but I just got a AC adapter for it, and I kind of rushed home, did my morning cardio because I'm a good girl who is responsible. So even though I had limited time this morning, I wanted to get streaming. I still did my cardio. I'm really trying to stick to that habit so that I'm not... I just was getting so worn out. I was not sticking to any good habits. And I've noticed that when I exercise regularly, I'm much nicer and my life is generally better. So trying to build that habit again. Been really consistent about it. And it helps that, so my current way of exercising is I do Beat Saber on my Oculus, which I refuse to call the other name that they changed it to, because it's terrible. Yeah, so every morning I walk my kids to school, and then I walk back, and then I come home and I hop on my Oculus and do like half an hour of Beat Saber. And since I'm doing it at the like the challenging level or whatever it's called, uh, it's actually like I'm always amazed at how sweaty I am after a session, because I wouldn't necessarily think that uh, I wouldn't necessarily think that waving your arms around is that good of exercise, but I always get just completely tuckered out. So it's working. Um, and then I'm also just for like trying to kind of lose some weight standpoint. I've been doing intermittent fasting, so I stop eating dinner around 8, and then I eat, or I stop eating at night around 8, and then I don't eat until noon. So usually the stream I like cram a bunch of food right before the stream starts, but in this case, I am just hungry. All right. Thanks, Teague. Yeah, I do the show kind of. I started doing it because I felt like Necromunda is this amazing game that I think it's a it's a more compelling game than a lot of GW's flagship games, but it didn't have as much kind of community around it, of people kind of talking about it. It was basically just Goonhammer, and then there was Chronicles from the Underhive. I'm not starving myself at all, actually. I'm not on a calorie restricted diet. I don't want to even get into that kind of realm because uh, I experience like really bad moods, and I struggle with kind of the um, like cravings, and it leads to bad choices and bad behavior, when I'm trying to like go super calorie restricted. Um, so I will I just am not eating for those 16 hours or whatever. So I only eat during an 8-hour window, but I can eat whatever I want. So I'm not going out of my way to be uh, low calorie, but the side effect of it is that I do wind up snacking a lot less and getting a lot less of those kind of empty calories. So my food choices are much more thoughtful, and I tend to hit my macros better. So as I was saying before with the podcast, I started the show right after Chronicles from the Underhive, which was another podcast, announced that they were kind of hanging up their belts or whatever. And then right around the same time, Some City Radio came out, and I thought, am I making a mistake doing like a second podcast in this space or whatever? Like, is there enough room for two Necromunda podcasts? And I think that there definitely is. Like, I don't know why I doubted it at the time. There's like dozens of Warhammer podcasts. But I was worried that people wouldn't be interested, and it has turned out really well. I've been going on 3 years of doing this, and I love it. And wouldn't stop even if I got like a day job tomorrow and I had a lot less free time. I would still do the show. It would just have to be a little bit less frequently. But currently, there's no risk of that. Thanks for hanging out, Kalos. Have a good rest of your day as well. All right. Still kind of doing just white on this model. it's a little funny doing the kind of the value sketch kind of approach. You spend so much time painting the model white. It's a little anticlimactic while you're working on it. Oh, I'm like out of frame. Like I said, I'm still getting used to this live streaming stuff. Anyway, you spend so much time working on the white that like it's like, when is this gonna end? And then you start throwing on the glazes, and it's like, oh, there it is. All that work finally pays off. Although now I'm kind of like, oh, I should come in with a little bit of gray and kind of do paint in the shadows. So where is my gray? There we go. Let's start with a light gray. Maybe Ah. I forget about the cough button once again. Well, it's an amateur production. But yeah, I'm kind of experimenting with this approach, kind of trying to find my preferred way to do it. It's obviously very easy to just kind of like dry brush and see where the chips fall or whatever. But I like to have a little bit more disciplined approach to kind of getting the details where I want them. It's also hard when you're using different grays, because different grays have very different tones in them. So I'm kind of potentially creating some clashing elements here with the undertones that I already put down. But that's okay, because I'm going to paint over this model a bunch to get it to where I want it. So the original colors at that point will probably just be more or less, just background. And like, I'm actually going to come in and paint even darker shadows, so that I have a little bit more control over the depth of it. So like that part going like a little bit lighter for now, and then I'm going to come back in with an even darker gray and do kind of the shadows and recesses. It's a learning process. I'm always kind of iterating on my painting methods, because I can never kind of settle on one way of doing it. Let's see, how dark is Dawnstone? Ah, nice. So, as you can see, Dawnstone is a good bit darker. So I can come in and do the deepest parts of the recesses like that. Boom. There is like a big leap, I feel like, when you start to not just rely on your undercoat for shadows and you start to paint in your own shadows. It is way easier to mess up. So I don't want to make it sound like it's simple because it's not. But it gives you a lot more kind of precision. I don't know. I'm still learning this stuff myself. But my goal is to kind of have a process that I'm comfortable with, um, that I can kind of use for everything. That works for different styles too, because like with value sketching, that only is just creating that sort of initial contrast. You can come back over it and do something like, say, if you wanted to uh, do a bunch of edge highlighting for that kind of like golden demony, very high end painting kind of look, you can start with a white, gray, black model and come in with those highlights after the fact. There's nothing wrong with that. I must say, I am feeling kind of worn out today. It has been a long day already, and it's only 11:45. So I may end the stream relatively early today. Maybe like 12:15, just because I'm tired and I want to eat something before I pick my kids up. Boom, boom, boom. I'm curious how this is going to go. I haven't done much of this kind of painting on models this scale. There's just a lot more of it to paint. But whatever. Yeah. I need to get the music situation sorted out, but of course, I was in a hurry today, so I didn't want to distract myself with finding music that I liked to do in the background. But definitely next hobby stream. And tomorrow, I'm going to be streaming Necromunda Hired Gun, the first-person shooter. I need to kind of get my streaming setup cleared off down here so that I have room for my laptop. Because I have a desktop computer that I do all this from, which is kind of funny. Having a desktop in 2022 is not that common, but I wanted a dedicated computer in my hobby space, and it was a lot cheaper when buying a Mac to go with the Mac Mini than the whatever the other option is, MacBook Pro or whatever, MacBook Air, MacBook Pro. All right. Just going at this ogre, hoping that I can kind of get it to where I want it. And I'm struggling a little bit. Of course, part of that is just the nature of any kind of painting project. You kind of hate it when you're at this point. You're like, nope, it all looks bad. I hate it. And then when you do like the next 2 or 3 steps, suddenly you're like, oh, this looks really good. Maybe. Maybe I'll always hate this one. And tell you what, white paints really like to dry out. Overall, I'm making progress. Progress is more important than perfection. Okay. Come in on the hands. And making progress. Okay. Well, I don't hate it. I'm not. It's not exactly what I'm going for yet. But I haven't spent that much time on it. And it is coming along. Okay. Just put them down for now. Those big areas of flash on the model are kind of a double-edged sword. Alright, so I'm working on the cold trader a little bit. And this is just the wrong gray. The dark one is working a lot better. Yeah. I am not feeling as talkative today. Being sick for the last week has really worn me out. Ugh. Of course I knocked the models. I knocked his hand off. I don't love plastic glue. I'm not gonna lie. I get why people use it. I've been trying to integrate it with my process more. I used to just do super glue for everything. But I know that technically speaking, it's better to do plastic glue in a lot of applications. So I've been trying it, but I'm just constantly struggling with it. I don't get as good of sets because it's like with my uh, super glue that I use, I'm always coming back around and uh, doing the accelerant like right after I place it. See, I don't know. I'm like working on all this detail stuff. I'm like, well, but I could just airbrush and get like a a good gradient on the clothes at least. Or I could even like paint these parts separately. But then, of course, that works a lot easier when you're doing kits that are designed to go together. When you're kit bashing, you kind of have to do a little catch as catch can. You can't. You can do some things in parts, right? Like the heads or whatever, but your body you can't really do separately from the legs because it's like those aren't supposed to go together. So to get them to fit together, I have to like do some magic, combine them, sculpt. If you do all that after you paint, you regret it. Okay. But the airbrush does present certain opportunities to do cool effects and stuff. So I do want to use it more, but practicing value sketching is not mutually exclusive. I just need to do it more and more and more. That's all. I'm just feeling discouraged. Trying to kind of up my painting level is, I think, something that will help me a lot, but it is also a little bit like trying because it's like I've been painting I've been painting scale models since I want to say 1996, uh, when I started painting model cars, and I started painting Warhammer stuff in 1999. After
Okay.
Siri, after getting Mordheim for my birthday, and it's just, how can I be so bad at something that I've been doing for almost 30 years, you know? But like in reality, I wasn't I wasn't doing it consistently for that whole time. I stopped painting pretty much in high school, and worked on other art stuff for a while. And then in college, I got into music a bit. And it wasn't until my senior year of college that I got back into miniature painting. So that's 2008. So I have been doing this for 14 years. So I do think that I should be better at it. But I don't have any perspective because I only compare myself against people who are also like really good painters. In addition to kind of being, YouTubers or whatever. So like they're like really, really good. And I'm just kind of mediocre. And I'm like, I should be as good as them. It's like, well, right, but like they put the time into learning specific techniques and practicing them and getting all that muscle memory down while I was kind of just working on speed painting. And I'm very good at speed painting. I could paint, an army in a very short period of time, but it's getting it up that the next level that I kind of am struggling with right now because it's like the work that I've been doing is kind of it's almost in a different area, so it almost doesn't quite. Oh, oops! Grab the wrong bottle of paint. But yeah, the work I've been doing is in the area of like getting things done instead of focusing on kind of the details, the important details. So I haven't been kind of practicing all of the skills that I need the way people who do more like edge highlighting kind of based systems tend to practice those skills. So I just have to, I have to put the time in. I have to do some learning, and I will get better. And I'm going to do like a whole series about it, I think, this year. Because I'm going to enter some models in the Capital Palette competition at Nova next year. And I want to kind of practice and learn and get better. And why not do a video series about it, you know? Got some dead air going on here as I concentrate. Just not good. You don't want quiet. You have to talk the whole time. Okay. All right. Well, it's a start. It's a start. Okay. Well, I'm not doing a very good job at doing my talking job right now because I'm concentrating. So, definitely going to need to find some musical solutions and get those queued up for the next time I do this hangout and hobby stuff. But I'm really enjoying the kind of the like dedicated hobby time being part of my like schedule. So I'm definitely gonna keep that up. I also just have so many projects that I haven't shown off on the stream that like, or that I haven't shown off on the channel that I think people would enjoy, and so it's a way to kind of bring some of that stuff in. I'm also trying to use the Facebook page features more. I forget sometimes that I have almost as many followers on here as I do on Facebook now. So it's like a good opportunity to reach people is to kind of do that. And even though I have the most followers on Twitter, I get so much less kind of direct interaction and exposure out of Twitter than I do from Facebook and from YouTube. So all right. Well, I did work on two models. I'm not overly excited about how they turned out. I'm gonna go ahead and do. Let's see. I know. I like to do kind of some weird stuff with my skin tones. I'm thinking right now that I'm going to use this Luxion purple with a bunch of medium added to it. The one downside of the dropper bottles that I've moved most of my paints to is that I am terrible about putting lids on dropper bottles. And that's all me. But I do have ADHD and I forget. And then I lose the dropper bottles lids, which is worse because then you can't put them back on because they're gone. All right. So by mixing medium with the contrast, you can get a significantly thinner glaze. And actually, on top of that, I think I'm also gonna do where is I had a bottle around of flow improver, and the flow improver is nice because it doesn't affect the ability of the contrast paint to kind of do its thing. The contrast does. Oops. Bumping all kinds of stuff. But you have to have the flow improver in order to use it. It's over by my airbrush. I do mostly use flow improver with the airbrush. Alright, so contrast medium, flow improver, and then let's do and now I think I'll probably have to come back over it with some grayer and then whiter tones on top of the flesh because I don't want them to be purple, but I do want them to look kind of weird and otherworldly. And starting out with kind of a purple tone on the skin can really help with that. And then you build it up to more of a flesh tone, but with that kind of purple shading kind of hanging around. That's one way to do it. I kind of like it, gives like a very kind of distinctly kind of alien look to skin when you you have purples or blues in the shading, because that's not what we expect. You're like, oh, what is that? Where's that creature from? Oh, yeah. Can't forget the hand. I really hate that when I like mix a paint to like the right consistency that I like, and then I paint everything correctly and then not the hand. I'm like, oh great, I have to figure out that mix once again. No. In my experience, it never quite looks right. All right, so that's a start. Maybe if I bump this up a little bit. Maybe the contrast would be a little better. Still not blown away by the image quality here. Definitely gonna do my DSLR next time. Just gotta get all of it hooked up. So I'm gonna skip all of that hard work that I did on the ogre here to get the skin on, because I don't think that it matters all that much. It was kind of practice. I'm just trying to get better, but I don't think it made a big difference. It did actually, I should say. It did make a big difference in the areas where the zenithal left too dark of a tone. So like bringing those areas up is helpful and will make this guy easier to get to the finish line. But I have all this paint out and I want to get these models done. So number 2, it's kind of like they'll serve as like a side by side of like, this one I put way more time into and it doesn't look any better because I do like a zillion layers of paint over top of this. So maybe it's not always worth it. All right. Well, I kit bashed, I painted. I am going to finish up now so that I can go get some food. Oh, yeah, this is kind of a problem. So definitely going to go with the DSLR. All right, let's see. If I bring it down here. Here we go. We can get a much better look at the models. The lack of a autofocus, the lack of a focus, like it's not, it doesn't lack autofocus. It has autofocus. It's just not intended to go with that depth of field. And then the other one, which I put a lot less time into, you could see on the sides where the gray was stronger, there's not nearly as much color. Whereas here, where I did all of that kind of extra highlighting work, it worked a little better. All right. Well, thank you everyone who hopped on and watched. I got an hour and 45 minutes out of it. I was not sure I was going to be able to make even that much. So ultimately, glad I did this today. Glad that I got that kit bash done. and just hoping that hoping that I get better at painting. Step by step, day by day, I will get better. And yeah, with that, I'm going to sign off. So thanks everyone for watching. Peace.